Woo-wee, woo-wee, mister. Woo-wee. I can't. Okay. Anyway, howdy, my name is Dane Madrigal. I'm a musician based out of the greater Cardiff area, and today we're doing Chapter 8 of Tchaikovsky's Guide to the Practical Study of Harmony. So today we're dealing with the inversions of triads, something that we've already talked about a little bit, but now we're diving in. Okay, so spoiler alert. The fundamental isn't always in the bass. Big sad boy hours. So when any other tone other than the fundamental is in the bass, we are now dealing with an inversion. So every triad actually has two inversions already. You have first inversion, which is the chord of the sixth, or the chord of the sixth and the third, and the second inversion, which is the chord of the sixth and the fourth, or the fourth and the sixth, however you look at it. Either way though, this is just describing the intervallic distance from whatever is now on the top of the chord in its inversion to whatever's on the bottom of the chord. So for a first inversion, the chord of the sixth is just referring to the distance between the top and bottom notes of the chord, or sixth and third, meaning top and bottom, and then between the two bottom notes. And then the same thing is true of the second inversion chord. It's referring to the difference between the sixth being from the bottom to the top, and then the fourth from the bottom of the top. I can't even tell. If you could see my hand wiggling over there, you might just see a thumb. It's fine. So something that's pertinent about the inversions is that each one actually has its own distinct sonic properties. A root position chord has a very specific sonic flavor because of its perfect fifth. The French call it parfait. More seriously, they call it accord parfait, and I don't have a good French accent. Accord parfait. Mon Dieu. So the inversions don't have perfect consonances that are easy for our ears to relate to. In a root position chord, the perfect fifth is very obvious because it outlines the chord itself. Whereas with a second inversion chord and the perfect fourth, it's kind of in the guise of the sixth that surrounds it. So it then lends these chords to be much more movable and viable for voice leading. So just some random facts about how they'd be used in harmonic progression is that they're probably going to be found in the middle of a composition. They probably won't be found at the beginning, and probably definitely won't be found towards the end. Just depends. Obviously though, this is the context of Tchaikovsky here. We're not talking about Boulez or anybody. So a very important topic that we need to discuss is doubling, because now that we have inversions, it changes our doubling rules. We come to this conclusion that a third of a chord really isn't all that sonorous in these types of situations. So therefore, in say a first inversion chord, we ought to double the root or the fifth, because that way it'll make it a more sonorous chord. Really, this just leads to exceptionally good positions in the voice leading. So again, voice leading is the main goal here, which does mean that if you could justify doubling a third, it can only really be done through a justification of good voice leading. And another very fun topic that we get to talk about is the chord of the sixth series, which is something that I didn't know about. So this is really exciting. This is the only chord that can really follow itself without poor voice leading. The best voice leading for this is as follows, and what I'm going to do is read directly, from my notes, so that way I can't mess this up. Two of the voices should move in parallel with the bass, while the other should be in contrary motion. This is to create correct doublings. So if the bass moves upwards, start by doubling the fifth. And if the bass moves downwards, start by doubling the fundamental. And actually what's kind of interesting is that Tchaikovsky seems to give some good illustrations of this, which is a shocker considering I deplore most of the illustrations in this specific treatise, but I will put it somewhere, maybe over my face here. Again, some more basic stuff. If you have a dominant chord, don't double the third because it's the leading tone. Big boo-boo. If you're dealing with a second inversion chord, just go ahead and double the fifth because it'll avoid concealed octaves in voice leading from the chord directly post-seating that second inversion chord. That's especially important because a chord like that will then become more important later for cadences, and when we discuss those more in depth. And the best way that we can root out concealed fifths and octaves overall is just by keeping in mind that when we're switching between chords as it passes by, we shouldn't really be keeping a chord in the same position each and every time, because not only would that lead to monotony, but it would also lead to these concealed fifths and octaves. There are some times still, though, when a motive might demand it, but we have to be conscientious as free-thinking individuals that we can avoid still even the most egregious errors just by paying a little bit more attention to the details. So with that, let's jump into an exercise and see how we do.
So there are a few things to be noted about this exercise. First and foremost, there are new figured bass figures which we need to know. The 6 and the 4/6, which are just derivatives off of the chords of the inversion. So seeing a 6 means a chords of the 6, and seeing a 4/6 means it is a chord of the 6/4. Now again, I did this exercise hastily, and looking over it while editing the video, I can very easily see where there's quite a few errors within it. So if you're not one to actually do the exercises from the book, then perhaps a good exercise anyway would be taking this apart really quickly and then just seeing where there's concealed fifths and octaves, where there's silly mistakes in voice leading, and also just general how would you make it more parsimonious. So that's something to consider, but here is my example.
That's it for today. So again, I encourage you, jump in, be involved with the community. I'm just on a social butterfly streak, I guess. I have enjoyed talking to people lately. Shocker. So yeah, that's about it. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day and week and life and so on. Peace.